And there we have our crown 90-degree miter.
You need a cheap, cordless, sliding compound miter saw? We might have just what you're looking for. I'm Tim Johnson. You're watching Shop Tool Reviews. This is the RYOBI PBT01B, and it is a sliding compound miter saw. Runs on their 18-volt platform, but it comes without the battery. So the PBT01B is a bare tool, no battery, but we do have the P97 or P197 4-amp-hour battery in there, just for looks. Anyway, we're going to dig into this saw and see what kind of features it's got, as well as use it. And you'll see that from our first cut all the way till where we are right now. And we'll give you our feedback on it. But let's get started, dig into these features, and watch it work. This is the RYOBI 18-volt sliding compound miter saw. Now, this is their 7 1/4 inch, and the model number on this is the PBT01B. Now, it does miter to both sides, so either side, and you have detents for several different locations. We'll cover that here in a moment. However, on the bevel, you only get bevel to one side. So it's only going to bevel to the left-hand side. It's not going to go to the right. It's going to go to 90 degrees and stop. So again, you get a full 45 degrees to one side, and then you get a miter to both sides up to 45 degrees. And again, detents in several locations, which you can turn off that detent as well. And again, I'll show you that feature in a moment as well. As I mentioned, this is a 7 1/4 inch blade. Turns up to 3,600 RPMs. We also have an arbor lock right here that will lock out that blade. Also, let me show you something here. So when you are wanting to change your blade, move this all the way down, move this up, then let the saw go all the way up, and it will hold that guard up out of the way for you. So you can see now the blade guard is up here. I'm not having to hold it there. And then we can get to our arbor here. There's an arbor lock right here on the tool where you can push that, and then it's going to lock it in place. And then you can take out the screw, which, by the way, that is an Allen head, which the key actually comes with this. It adjusts the fence, as well as we'll take out the arbor screw there. And by the way, it is reverse thread, so make sure you're turning it the proper way. It does have a marking right here on the guard to show you this as well. We also have a depth stop right here that we can quickly engage or disengage. So this is our actual depth stop here. And to turn this on, we just take this lever and we push it to the side so that that bolt will actually hit against it. Now, if we want to set the depth or raise the blade, if you will, we'll screw that down. And now we'll see that the blade is a good 1/2 inch off of the actual base. And by the way, I'll show you a little trick with that on how to use that here in a moment as well. And if we wanted to quickly kind of deactivate that feature, we could slide this back over without having to mess with our thumb screw so it's still set. But now we can go below deck and actually cut all the way through our lumber if we need to. If we get in here nice and close, we see some detents right here on the bottom of the base. Now, by raising the trigger here, you can start to move this, and then you can let go of that trigger, and it's going to stop on the detent. So now the first place it's going to stop is 15 degrees. I can grab the trigger again, and then it stops at 22.5 degrees, and again at 31.6. So if we're cutting crown, and then once more at 45 degrees. Now here's another feature. There's a second trigger right below this bigger trigger, and if I pull it up on it, it's going to lock that trigger into place where now it will not stop on those detents, and we can set it wherever we want, and then screw in the clamp here, and it's going to lock it at, let's say, 28 degrees or wherever we want to stop that angle, or wherever we want to make that cut. Then we can loosen it back up, pull the trigger, and it will disengage that lock, and now we're back to stopping on our detents. And when we're going miter left as well, it's still going to be 15 degrees, 22.5, 31.6, and 45 degrees is going to be our different detent stops. On the back here, we can see our fence. We can also see our clamp here, which, by the way, is a knurled piece of metal. It doesn't have a flat spot on it, so you don't have to key it in a certain direction. Just putting it in there, that knurling is going to help grab that really well, so that when you clamp down on that piece of material, it's going to lean against that and grab and not go anywhere. Removing it, just loosen it up, pull it out, and move it out of your way. Now, so we're looking at the back of our fence, and so we have some Allen bolts here with our Allen key, and by the way, there's a Phillips on the opposite end of that Allen key. And so if we want to loosen these up, that's where we can tune this back fence to make sure that we're cutting square. Also right here on the back, this is tightening and setting our bevel adjustment as well. So if we loosen this up, that's where we can lean that bevel and then clamp that back down, and we're good to go. And you can see here on our bevel gauge, we can easily see our 45-degree marking, our 30, our 15, and even our 22.5 and our 33.85 or 33.9 as well. So when we're cutting crown, there's little red marks there that tell us where to set those bevels. Also, something else to help you set crown or to help you cut crown, you can see the crown mark here that lines up with this, so we can loosen up our slide, and then once it gets to that mark, we can clamp that down to aid us in cutting crown if we want to, or you can leave that free and cut that on your own at your will as well. Dust bag here, which I doubt it does much, if at all. It's a 1 1/4 inch inside port and 1 1/2 inch outside port, just short of 1 1/2 inches. And we'll hook a dust extractor up to here as well. We'll run it a couple of times with the bag and then throw the dust extractor on there and see how well the dust extraction works on it. I also noticed on the front side of this, so right here, is another foot here for stabilization, I guess. So you can crank that up or down to actually get that to rest right here, so that when you are running larger dimensional stuff, it's not trying to lean it forward. And of course, if you're screwing this down, which it has several screw holes right here in the base, it's not going to move anyway, but you do have that additional foot for adjustment. We do have rubber feet here on the bottom as well. Those can be removed if you want to, but out of the box, you do have some rubber feet that keeps that aluminum sitting up off the ground just a little bit. And again, even that additional leg here on the front as well. Now we're running a 4 amp hour battery on here, which is the P197. That's what it recommends to run on it. Of course, you can run larger 6 amp hour, 9 amp hour batteries as well. And you can run other batteries, but they definitely recommend at least the P197, and that's what we have in here. So let's set this up, let's start using it, and let's see if our fence is square out of the box and how close we are. And then we'll run a few cuts on it with some dimensional lumber as well as some hardwood and see what we think. Okay, we're going to see how true this is. I'm going to draw us a quick reference line here. Make sure we're square against the fence. So we're actually really close. So I saw some reports where they were saying it would not get square or would not get true. And what I have here is I was on this side of the line starting out and just cut into the line here on the back side. So that means my fence needs to come this way just a touch. So let's adjust that really quick. We'll pull our battery out. So I'm going to loosen up over here on this side of the fence. And loosen this here. I'm not going to loosen that one much. Then loosen here. And then just, I might have gone too much there, but we'll see. We'll try that once more. I'll leave more of the line this time. Put in our battery. We still cut into our line, which means we're still too far this way. I still need to come back this way. And one more time, let's see what we get. Okay, I'm almost dead on now. Really close.
Okay, one more move. Yeah, I'm right at it now. I'm right at being dead on straight. So we did get it tuned there. A little bit of cumbersome, but let's face it, you shouldn't be moving that all the time. And if you're looking at this for raw lumber stuff, you probably don't need to mess with it that much anyhow. Now, I'm not going to do it right now, but if you also wanted to check for to make sure that we're plumb or make sure that we're 90 degrees perpendicular to the table, then we can do some fine adjustment. And right here would be your adjustment for that Allen head. Probably have to loosen that nut right there and then set that in or out to make sure that you've got that completely vertical saw blade. If I quickly wanted to do a 45 miter, stop right there on the detent, put my lumber in, and by the way, this is a piece of 1x6, I believe. Yeah, so that's 5.5 inches wide. So 1x6 at a 45. So you really can't push this too hard. This is just some, looks like some either pine or cedar. So you can't just rip through it and push it as hard as you want. But it will make some pretty decent cuts in that miter situation, cutting through 1x6. Which, by the way, looks like you might be able to get some 8-dimensional lumber at a 45, but you're definitely not going to get 10-inch, where they claim at 90 degrees you can get a full 9.5 inches or a 10 by or 2 by 10, 1 by 10, and so forth. Now, if I also wanted to do a compound miter cut, so if I wanted a 45 here and a 45 here, I can do so. And now let's see how good the cut quality is here. So it definitely does it. I would say a piece of 2x material, it's probably going to struggle a little bit with that because I'm not pushing that hard at all. I'm really taking my time. But it did a decent cut. It didn't seem to walk or have much deflection, if you will. So it did a decent job of making that cut. Now, as you can see, we have quite a bit of dust around us. So what I'm going to do, I am going to hook up our dust extraction. So I'm going to pull off the bag. And I promise you there's much more dust around this place than there is in this bag. They just don't do a good job of doing anything. I'm going to hook our dust extraction up, and then we'll make some more cuts. I'll leave it at 30 degrees. So we'll try no dust collection. Another one with no dust collection. And then with dust collection. So it's definitely making a difference with it on there. I wouldn't say that it's doing remarkably good as far as dust collection goes, but I wouldn't expect a $200 miter saw to be doing that anyway. Okay, so I've cleaned it up a little bit with the vacuum. Now we're going to run some more and just see how much more residual we'll have flying over everything, and might show us a little better now that it's cleaned up. So it's definitely doing better, but we do still have plenty of residual that seems to be flying around, which again, that was very much expected. When you see these higher dollar saws and their dust collection, you can actually see just by their ports and their different flappers, if you will, and where they catch a lot of that material. They do a lot better job, but there's a lot more to it, a lot more engineering goes in. So again, no expectations there of it being any different. When it comes to hardwood, it's as much blade performance as it is saw performance. So not sure what we're going to get here because we're using the standard RYOBI blade here. So I'm not expecting a lot here either, but I am curious if this thing's going to bog or if it's just going to cut right through. So here goes in a piece of 1-inch hardwood. So again, you can't just rush through it, but it cut it fine. Turn our dust extraction back on. It's definitely not burning through. It's not overheating it, and it's cutting. Do a little score. That's definitely acceptable. Struggled on that quite a bit, and I'm sure if I beveled that as well, that's really going to have a tough time cutting that. This is an 18-volt tool. Not bad. Not bad at all. So I reversed this miter so we've got it 30 degrees on the opposite side, and we've got about a 30-degree bevel as well, just so you could see this better on the cutting side. And here we go. So not bad. Let me see if I could do a score and see if I can keep that blowout from happening. So again, you can definitely overpush this, but by scoring it, I definitely kept that blowout from happening, at least on our good piece side. So listen, for the type of saw it is, I'm pretty impressed of what it can do. So I'm going to set my bevel to 33.9, and I'm going to set my miter to 31.6, and we'll cut some crown. Go the opposite way. And there we have our crown 90-degree miter. So not bad, definitely for a DIY tool, or for somebody just kind of getting into some finished carpentry. Not bad, easy to set up, other than getting us nice and square. But it'll cut crown, it'll cut your base. I'm sure you can tell by my commentary during the feature section and the use section, this is not a pro-level saw. This is not something that pro-level carpenter or even finisher or cabinet maker is going to reach for. It just doesn't have the features to do so, but that's also why this is $199 and not $599 or $499. So it's a big difference in those fine level saws in the realm of price and this saw. Now, RYOBI does include a 3-year warranty for this, and it's $199. Now, yes, you have to have a battery, but I'm assuming that you may already be on the RYOBI platform if you're buying this, so then you already have your batteries that you can use with this. Now, I think I covered in the use section that they did recommend to at least use a P197, which is their 4 amp hour battery, or you can go larger than that to make sure that you're giving this thing enough power as well as enough runtime to not drive you silly. Now, initially it did take us a little bit to tune the fence, but quite frankly, I made the wrong adjustment out of the gate, so my first couple of adjustments were the exact wrong way, and then I had to back out of that and get it tuned up. It did take a little bit, but then again, you're only doing that typically once unless you're just beating on this saw or what have you. And it may be close enough out of the gate if you're just doing kind of rough lumber stuff that you really don't care, and it doesn't matter that you're within 1/32 of an inch over 6 inches. So that's up to you on how well you want this tuned, and we didn't even bother on tuning the actual perpendicular and where we square to the actual tabletop. So you can get into that as well. As far as the features on this saw, for a $200 saw, it does quite well. The fact that you can miter to both sides, that you have 10 different detents, you can also block out those detents, and we can even bevel to one side, and you get the sliding capabilities, which basically allows you to take that smaller 7 1/4 inch blade but be able to move over a wider area. So you can cut up to 2x10 material, but as I mentioned, as you go into miters, you're not going to be able to cut that 10-inch material. You're going to be down to 8 and probably 6 if you're doing a bevel and a miter as well. So keep that in mind, that just because it will cut a 10-inch crosscut doesn't mean if you're needing to do a compound miter on that 10-inch that you can do that either. And that will really frustrate you if that's what you need to do. Hey, check this out for yourself. It's the model number PBT01B. Again, I mentioned it's $199. This is a bare tool. RYOBI covers it with a 3-year warranty. As I mentioned, I don't think that professional's reaching for this unless maybe it's your first compound miter saw, and that will get you by till you make enough money to buy you what you need. For that DIYer that's hanging crown molding, that's putting in baseboard, that maybe doing a little bit of building, doing crafts, it's going to be a great saw for you. So, don't overspend when it comes to something like that. Check it out for yourself. You can find it at Home Depot and on HomeDepot.com. Also, keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you don't mind, as always, would you hit that like button and even subscribe if you haven't already? But only if you liked our video. If you hated our video, would you do us a favor and give us a thumbs down? Did I really say that? Did I say do us a favor? Well, anyway, if you do give us a thumbs down, but would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day and keep smiling.